Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Waking up Friday morning, some more buzz related to a potential expansion of the college football playoffs going from 12 teams to 16 teams with automatic bids getting allocated to conferences. Now, we're going to talk about the automatic bids going to conferences, but that's not nearly the bigger problem that I have with the expansion that we're looking at for the college football playoffs. Like to me, a lot of people were concerned about this when it went from 4 to 12. I think there were some people that preferred to just leave it at BCS era 1 versus 2 national championship game. I think a lot of people probably supported it getting expanded to 4. I think there was a lot more skepticism about it getting expanded to 12. I think there's a ton of skepticism expanding it to 16. Here's where it starts for me. This dilutes the regular season and the impact that regular season games have every single Saturday. And that's probably where I want to start, in my opinion. And this is just one college football fan that's been watching this sport for as long as I've been on this planet. What makes college football on Saturdays just feel different from when we wake up on Sundays and watch the NFL? To me, the regular season games have so much impact and there's so much juice around them. It just feels different. When you take a look at that Michigan Ohio State game end of November, that's a game that's not only a rivalry game, but that is a game that historically I say this because now it's really not the case, but historically, those two teams face off. Big Ten championship game on the line, but more importantly, college football playoff national championship implications. The more we continue to expand the college football playoffs, the more we dilute the importance of regular season games. And it's not just Michigan, Ohio State. It's when Alabama goes on the road to play LSU at night in Baton Rouge. Like that game historic is like, hey, if you want to go win a national championship and satisfy your team's goals, you have to go win that football game. And the buzz, the feeling that you had going into that football game just felt a little bit different than when you wake up and watch a rivalry in the NFL, Pittsburgh going on the road to play the Baltimore Ravens. They play that game twice a year. You can lose that game and still make the playoffs. It feels different from a college football fan's perspective when you wake up on Saturday and you go into a game of that magnitude because your season's goals were on the line every single Saturday. And historically, that's what has made this sport so special. When you have these massive matchups, it's not only a really big game in the landscape or in the scope of that Saturday, it had playoff implications, it had national championship implications. The more we continue to expand the college football playoffs, the less of an impact and importance that these regular season games have. And that's to me what separates the NFL from college football. We wake up on Saturday mornings and these games feel a little bit different because so much is riding on these football games. That's where it starts. I want to get into why these changes might be getting made before I do. And as always, to the college football fans, whether you're a Michigan fan, a Texas Tech fan, a USC fan, let it fly in the comment section. And I think you could pull 100 different college football fans and you get a different answer in terms of how they want the playoffs to look like. But I think most of us look at expanding to 16 and I say it just, you're really running the risk of diluting the importance and the feeling that we all get every single Saturday when we wake up in the fall. Please let it fly in the comment section. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Without further ado, let's get into it. Now, look, I'm not getting up here and acting like I know the perfect solution or what the ideal college football playoff format looks like. But I am getting up here and saying that 16 teams is certainly not what I see as the best way to go about this. And the crazy part is all right, let's start with why are these changes being made? And I know it's kind of a cynical way of looking at it, but I think it's a very realistic way of looking at it. And that is money, more college football playoff games, more eyeballs on the sport, making more money for these networks. The problem with this is like, okay, that might make sense in that narrow scope of it, more college football games or college football playoff games. more eyeballs, more money. Well, what happens when people care a little bit less about some of these games in the regular season on Saturdays? I mean, because these games are so important. I mean, I've done it my whole life, and I'm sure many of y'all have done it too. You block out your whole Saturdays. Like, don't ask me to do nothing from noon till midnight Saturdays in the fall. That's what it's like for a lot of us. You start expanding to 16 teams in a playoffs, and you're saying, hey, honey, you want to go apple picking during this Georgia Clemson game week 1? All right, maybe we'll go, because even if Clemson or Georgia loses that game, they'll still be all right. They'll still be able to lose 1 or 2 more games and still make the college football playoffs and compete for a national championship. I think on the surface, it might make sense to some of these decision makers. I look at it and say, I don't even know if the decision they're making to make more money even makes that much sense, because we're the more you expand the playoffs, the less I think people, and I don't know if it's totally fair to say this, but I think there's a little bit of truth to it. The less we feel like Saturdays are sacred anymore, because every single Saturday maybe doesn't impact the whole season. I mean, I know a lot of people that on Saturdays they're making sure that whole Saturday afternoon is free, and they're sitting on the couch watching college football. In the NFL, you'll dip out for the second half of the Bills game, or you'll dip out for the second half of the Rams game at 4:05 Eastern time. You don't do that for college football, because these games are so important in the middle of October. If you lose that, I think you lose a little bit of the feel that we get every time we wake up Saturday. Now, the other thing that I think a lot of y'all made a lot of sense when we were talking about this a couple months ago, we're just going to continue to ignore the bigger problems facing the sport. Right. And look, we want the best possible college football playoff experience. I think that's very fair. That's not the biggest problem facing the sport right now. There's a whole heck of a lot of other problems, most notably as it relates to the playoffs. You have the transfer portal opening up as we kick off these playoff games. It doesn't make sense to me how we're worried about expanding the playoffs right now when we have so many other problems facing the sports, including a mechanism in the sport where you're allowing players to leave their programs to go to another program while the college football playoffs are just getting underway. Academic calendars. I mean, again, we're talking about college football student athletes. Academic calendars, not even close to fitting with where the playoffs kind of align. We're continuing as a sport to kind of focus our attention on stuff that, look, this stuff matters. You want to have the best experience for the college football playoffs, but does it matter as much as getting some of these other things right first? Talk about not really valuing the right things. Number 3, and this is a take that I won't die on this hill, but this is kind of how I feel. I just think conference bids are a little bit silly right now, and it starts with just, look, the conferences are changing, and they're going to change in the next 5 to 10 years. And so we're trying to set up a college football playoff format with leaning so much into conference bids when we don't even know what the conferences are going to look like in 5 to 10 years, maybe even 2 to 3 years. And then number 2, like, I've been very clear that just let the best teams go to the college football playoffs. We don't have to monkey around with allowing teams to quote unquote get a shot. And that sounds a little bit harsh. But if you want, I mean, you care so much about this product, you care so much about eyeballs, then get the best teams in. You know, get the best teams that are the best teams in college football playing each other in the playoffs, and quit worrying about, is it fair to every single conference? Because I promise you there will be years where we're looking at, and it could even be the Big Ten one year. It could even be the SEC one year where it's like, do we really need 4 or 5 SEC teams in the college football playoffs? I mean, most likely it's probably going to be like the Big 12, and you're looking at it and saying, all right, that one team makes sense, but second best team in the Big 12, look, it don't make sense for them to be in the college football playoffs. Like, if you want to maximize the eyeballs around the sport, focus on getting the best and most deserving football teams into the playoffs. That's kind of my take on the conference bids. If you disagree with that, I can understand. The 16 teams is a joke. To me, it hurts what has made this sport so special. I mean, you look at the NBA and why the ratings are so down. It's because nobody gives a damn about the regular season games. You got guys sitting out. You got guys doing load management. Half the league gets into the playoffs anyways. Why would I have to block out Thursday night and go watch the Raptors play the Celtics? They're both getting into the playoffs, whether they win or lose that game, and half the players aren't playing. The more you go to expanding the college football playoffs, the more you start to get to feel that these games in the middle of October don't matter as much. And you go back to what has made this sport the sport that I've decided to love. It's that feeling that you wake up on Saturday and you go into an Alabama LSU game, night game, Baton Rouge, saying not only is this a massive football game for both programs in the scope of that Saturday, but it's like you don't win this game, you don't go to the college football playoffs, you don't get an opportunity to win a national championship. That's what has made this sport so special, now, at least in my opinion. It's my take on it. Big mistake. We'll see what comes about of it. Again, we've heard plenty of these rumors, and if it happens, if it doesn't happen, but I think continuing to expand the playoffs, not good for the overall sport, even for the decision makers that are saying, hey, we want to maximize the eyeballs and money this sport can generate. I don't think this is the right decision even for that. Appreciate you guys rocking with it. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll talk to you. Please let it fly in the comment section as well. We'll talk to y'all later.